First and foremost, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahushai, Bahasham, Recha Kodash. Double honors to the elders and the apostles of Great Millstone, and peace and blessings to the elect. And today we're going to go into the book of Wisdom of Solomon, the first chapter. So this is Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 1, verse 1. Love righteousness, ye that be judges of the earth. Think of the Lord with a good heart, and in simplicity of heart seek him. So as you go through the book of Wisdom of Solomon, I believe like the first, I forget the exact breakup of it, but for the first couple of chapters, right, it goes into, they're all really words of wisdom. But as you really get to around the 7th chapter going on, it starts to go focus more on wisdom herself, or wisdom itself, and the nature and traits of wisdom. And then as you go, I believe from around the 13th or so chapter on down, it starts to go more into historical account, right, of the Lord's dealings and mercy in comparison with Israel and the Egyptians and the heathen nations. So continuing on, right, it says, love righteousness, ye that be judges of the earth, right? And so, generally speaking, the scriptures mention that through unrighteous dealings, roughly paraphrasing, one kingdom is translated, right, to another. So if you're a judge over the earth and you're not reigning in righteousness, what's going to happen is the Lord is going to bring judgment upon you and your kingdom. Because in the book of Ecclesiasticus, it tells you that as the way of the, roughly paraphrasing, as the way of the leader is, so are his people. Think of the Lord with a good heart, that's your mind, and in simplicity of heart seek him. For he will be found of them that tempt him not, and sheweth himself unto such as do not distrust him. So those that tempt him not are those, because what is an example of tempting the Lord? Doing wickedness, because you tempt him to bring judgment upon you. So those that tempt him not are those that are obedient to him, and those are the ones who he will be found of, right? When they seek out to him, he is going to, respond. He's going to draw near to them. It says here, and sheweth himself unto such as do not distrust him. So those that put their trust in the Lord are the ones who he shows himself to. For froward thoughts separate from God. And let's look at that word froward. Yeah, it says here, difficult to deal with, contrary, but there's a bit more. It goes into also being, actually, let's do this here. Let's go into the blue letter and let's look up that word. Okay, you have froward, many uses of it. Put away from thee a froward mouth, for the froward is an abomination. So let's take a look at that word here. To depart, to turn aside, to go wrong, go crooked, right? Devious or perverse. Let's take a look at that word. So perverse is of a person or their actions showing a deliberate and obstinate desire to behave in a way that is unreasonable or unacceptable, often in spite of the consequences. So somebody that is perverse, okay, which also goes back to being froward, is one that the obstinate is like a dead set, right? Stubbornly. So they are refusing to change one's opinion or chosen course of action despite attempts to persuade one to do so. So they're just like dead set on behaving in a way that's unreasonable or unacceptable, regardless of what the consequences are. That is a froward individual. So that's why it says, for the froward thoughts separate from God, because those that are froward cannot be subject to the laws of the Lord. They want to do what they want to do, regardless of the consequences. And his power, when it is tried, reproveth the wise. Because how do you try the power of the Lord? right? You put him in a position to where he shows forth his power. And in the context of this verse, it's those that deliberately disobey the Lord, right? And they tempt them to bring judgment. And when when his power is tried, when it's put to the test, it reproveth the unwise through judgment. For into a malicious soul wisdom shall not enter, nor dwell in the body that is subject to sin. And the wisdom here is dealing with the wisdom of the right hand side, okay, the good wisdom, which is actual wisdom, not knowledge of left hand wickedness and practices, because that goes into malicious souls. That's part of what makes them malicious. But here, the wisdom, the pure wisdom from God, will not enter into a malicious soul. That's why people that live that malicious lifestyle, they don't move with wisdom, the same godly wisdom that we have, nor dwell in the body that is subject to sin. Okay, now you may say, well, what about those who the Lord gave wisdom to? Because we're all in these sinful bodies, right? So will we not also be likened onto bodies that are subject to sin? No. The difference is that in our our minds, right, as the Apostle Paul mentioned, we don't desire to sin. We don't set our minds to sin. Okay, so we don't entice our body to sin. Now, every so often you may fall short, but that is not you subjecting your body to sin. Okay, so in this case, this does not include those who the Lord actually gives wisdom to, because then that would be contrary to what's written here. For the Holy Spirit of discipline will flee deceit and remove from thoughts that are without understanding. So individuals that are undisciplined, that lack understanding, they will not have the Holy Spirit of discipline. Okay, those that are deceitful, which are traits of frowardness or wickedness, the Holy Spirit of discipline will not come upon them. Hence, they will continue to wax worse and worse. And as it says, remove from thoughts that are without understanding. So people that lack understanding don't have the spirit of discipline, the Holy Spirit of discipline in their mind, and will not abide when unrighteousness cometh in. And that's why you have to be very careful how you deal in this life, because the Lord can bless you with wisdom, but it doesn't mean that you'll always keep it. That's the whole part right here. Will not abide, meaning it will not remain when unrighteousness cometh in. So if you start to give, like look at King Solomon, for example, right? And in his beginning days, he did good, but in his old age, he went astray. It says his heart was not perfect with the Lord as David, his father's, was. See, so when you start to let unrighteousness come in, both can dwell, you can't have two drivers, right, in the driver's seat. So what will happen is the Holy Spirit of discipline will leave once it notices unrighteousness coming into your vessel. And what that looks like is you starting to give heed to seducing spirits and starting to stray further and further away from the discipline of the Lord. For wisdom is a loving spirit and will not acquit a blasphemer of his words. Okay, so one that is, let's go into that word blasphemer. Whoa. A person who speaks with contempt, irreverence, or disrespect toward God, sacred entities, or religious beliefs. Okay, so derived from the act of blaspheming, it refers to one who curses, mocks, or utters profane expressions regarding holy things. So, of course, wisdom is not going to acquit, all right, or to make, free of guilt a blasphemer, right, of his words. For God is witness of his reigns, that's your inward part, and a true beholder of his heart, and a hearer of his tongue. See, so the Most High hears everything. He knows what your thoughts are. He knows what your heart, meaning your mind, right, where your thoughts are, and everything you say does not go unheard by the Lord. And the spirit of wisdom is the Lord's spirit, so he will not acquit a blasphemer. For the Spirit of the Lord filleth the world, and that which containeth, and hence he is omniscient, right? Omnipresent. The Spirit of the Lord is what controls everything in the world today. Things on the right hand and things on the left hand. And that which containeth all things hath knowledge of the voice, right? Which is the Spirit of the Lord. And it says it hath knowledge of the voice, so it knows what is spoken, right? The Lord knows what is spoken wherever it's spoken. And that's why when the scriptures say everything that is spoken in secret shall be brought to light, that's not a understatement. And therefore, he that speaketh unrighteousness or unrighteous things cannot be hid. Yeah, and if you're speaking unrighteous things, that means you're also thinking unrighteous things and you're living an unrighteous lifestyle. And so you can't be hid. You can't try to hide it because the Lord already knows. Neither shall vengeance, when it punisheth, pass by him. So vengeance being the time when the Lord brings judgment, when it punishes, when it starts to take place, you're not going to escape. For inquisition shall be made into the counsels of the ungodly. And let's look at that word inquisition. So it says here, a period of prolonged and intensive questioning or investigation. Okay, so there was that cross-examination. So inquisition shall be made into the counsels of the ungodly. All right, which primarily the ungodly represents Esau, Edom, because they were created to be the ungodly. But it's also, you have Israelites that are considered the ungodly as well. So all their counsels, all the things that they've discussed and planned, whether individually or whether as a body, inquisition shall be made through the Spirit of the Lord. And the sound of his words shall come unto the Lord for the manifestation of his wicked deeds. See, so everything you've said is going to come before the Lord as evidence that manifests or shows forth your wicked actions or your wicked deeds. It's like when you have some of these individuals that get caught on TV shows like Dateline NBC, or was that To Catch a Predator? And they'll pull up the transcripts of their messages with, let's say it's some older man trying to go meet an underage boy, for wicked activities. They may try to deny it when they're there, but once whoever is the host starts to read the messages, you can see there that their words are manifesting their wicked deeds, right? What did you mean by this? So why would you say this here? Because you're telling me one thing now, but the evidence of what you said, all right, or what you messaged is saying another thing. For the ear of jealousy heareth all things, and the noise of murmurings is not hid. And that ear of jealousy, here it's not, it's referring to the Lord, but the jealousy is not like how you, you're a very jealous guy, right? You see it, somebody even looks at your chick, you get, crazy. That's not the kind of jealousy he's talking about. It's not talking about, oh, I'm envious of one. The jealousy here is more of zeal, right? Or intolerance of sin. So that's, the Lord's ear hearing all things, and the noise of murmurings is not hid. All right. And murmurings are like evil speakings, right? Or complaints. So verse 11, therefore beware of murmuring, which is unprofitable, and refrain your tongue from backbiting. See, so knowing these things, be careful and be mindful of murmuring, which is not profitable for you, and keep your tongue, right? Refrain from backbiting, which backbiting is also similar in terms of speaking maliciously, all right, but more so about somebody, when you in their absence, right? It's like they say, talking smack behind somebody's back. Be careful of that, because everything you say, right? For there is no word so secret that shall go for naught. Everything you say is being heard. And the mouth that belieth slayeth the soul. Okay, and belieth is to lie. Slayeth the soul, because it eventually will come back on you. Seek not death in the era of your life, and pull pull not upon yourself or yourselves destruction with the works of your hands. So, there are times when you do commit a blunder, right? And it may feel so bad, you may think that, damn, it's better if you weren't even on the earth. But as it says here, don't seek death in the era of your life. On the one sense, if you make an error, don't desire to die. You have some people today that do that, right? Or some people in the world that do that. Something goes really, really wrong. They're very embarrassed, or they did something very wrong, and they just take their life, thinking that death is better than to continue on in that life with that reputation. And pull not upon yourselves, so don't bring upon yourselves destruction through the actions of your hands, right? Don't go and partake in deeds that can bring destruction or evil upon you. For God made not death, neither hath he pleasure in the destruction of the living. All right, so the Lord created life, right? He created he created life. Death came by the actions of the living. Okay? And as it says, neither hath he pleasure in the destruction of the living. If that was the case, he wouldn't have made them living. For he created all things. And that's why when you go into the book of Genesis, it's because it was a punishment that the Lord said, I'm going to shorten the lifespan of man. What did he say? Be fruitful and multiply. What is that? That's life promoting. For he created all things that they might have their being, right? That they might exist, that they might live. And the generations of the world were healthful. See, so when the Lord, when creation was, happened, everything was healthful, right? The earth was healthy, the people were healthy, the animals were healthy, everything was created in good health. And there is no poison of destruction in them, nor the kingdom of death upon the earth. See, so when the Lord set up creation, that he didn't embed in it, poison, all right, of destruction, right? It wasn't merged with destruction. It was created to live, to flourish, right? That's the earth, that's life, that's man, that's animals, that's birds. As it says, nor the kingdom of death upon the earth. So the kingdom of death, which really came through sin, was not intended, or not even say intended, that wasn't the original creation. That came about through the actions of what was created. For righteousness is immortal. See, and that's how right? Like righteousness leads to immortality. And so what happened when Adam left off from righteousness? He lost that immortality. Verse 16, but ungodly men with their works and words called it to them. For when they thought to have it their friend, that is death, okay, and unrighteousness, they called it to them. So they went and sought the ways of death. And when they thought to have it their friend, to be a companion of it, they consumed to naught. So they completely took hold of it and made a covenant with it. That is a covenant with death, metaphorically speaking here. But what it means is they were joined onto the ways of death because they are worthy to take part with it. See, so they were created, these ungodly men were created, and that was their portion. And by being worthy to take part of death, that's why they went and sought a covenant with it and were joined onto it. And so in the next chapter, you'll see it starts to now, the focus now shifts onto the mindset or the thought process of the ungodly, right? And the vanity of their life and their thoughts. And that brings us to the end of the book of Wisdom of Solomon, the first chapter. Lord willing, that was edifying to the elect. In closing, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Racha Kodash. And until next time, Shalom.